Federal prosecutors are probing whether the NYPD's Special Victims Division has failed to conduct basic investigative steps in sexual assault cases, instead shaming and abusing survivors and, quote, re-traumatizing them. U.S. Department of Justice prosecutors said they have information pointing to a pattern of, quote, gender-biased policing over the course of a decade. Investigations into sexual assault that comply with the Constitution promote accountability, enhance public safety, and foster community trust, Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark said in a statement.
There's no higher level of priority for us to ensure that victims of sexual assault receive the right treatment, investigation, and resolution.
Mayor Adams and Police Commissioner Keyshawn Sewell responded by saying the city would cooperate with the federal probe. They also stressed they had already begun making changes.
We were not sitting on our hands. The police commissioner immediately started taking actions towards what we perceived as how to make sure that unit is a professional unit.
The federal probe comes after a 2018 City Department of Investigation report found multiple problems, including deficiencies in staff. City investigators said, rather than furnish proper staffing, NYPD leadership in 2011 directed SVD to simply not investigate all misdemeanor sexual assaults. They also wrote, the failure to treat acquaintance and domestic rape as crimes on par with stranger rape is unacceptable in modern law enforcement. Sewell responded to the DOJ probe by saying, our goal is for SVD to be the national model. I believe any constructive review of our practices in the Special Victims Division will show that the NYPD has been evolving and improving in the area. But we will be transparent and open to criticism as well as ideas in the process. Both the mayor's office and the NYPD noted that a new commanding officer has been appointed to the division in recent months, that decision informed by survivors' advocates. The Department of Justice probe includes a comprehensive review of policies, procedures, and training. Emily Ngo, New York One.
Rikers life matters.
Tonight, a family calls for justice after a man was severely injured while in police custody. Video released by the New Haven Police Department shows the moments when Randy Cox, transported in a police van, slammed against the wall. His attorney, civil rights lawyer Benjamin Crump.
Randy Cox is lying in that hospital bed, paralyzed from his chest down because of the actions and the inactions of the New Haven Police Department.
As the investigation continues, Cox's family also claiming he wasn't given proper medical attention, something New Haven's assistant police chief addressed.
We have a policy that says if someone's in distress in a wagon, you pull over, you call for medical assistance, and you wait. He didn't do that.
Police officials say it all started Sunday, June 19th, as a weapons complaint. 36-year-old Cox was arrested for illegal possession of a handgun and loaded into the police van. Video shows Cox sitting on a bench in the back of the vehicle with no seatbelt. Then, in body cam video released by police, you see the officer, identified as Oscar Diaz, driving to a detention center. He swerves the vehicle and honks, saying he was avoiding a crash. The loud sound can be heard as well. A view from the back of the vehicle shows Cox thrown forward, colliding with the wall of the cabin. We've blurred the most graphic parts of these images. About 4 minutes later, body cam video shows Diaz getting out, opening the back of the vehicle, and asking Cox what happened.
What happened? Can you move at all?
I can't move.
I can't move you, so I have to, hold on, I'm going to have to go get an ambulance.
Back in the driver's seat, Diaz does alert paramedics, but he also continues driving. Then, once at the detention facility, video shows officers lifting Cox up and out of the vehicle.
No, you drink too much. Okay, sit up.
He appears limp and did not stand on his own. The footage shows Cox slumped in that wheelchair while he's processed, before he's eventually dragged across the floor and put in a cell where restraints are placed on his legs.
Every case is different, but the one thing that's constant throughout is you get people medical attention when they need it.
An ambulance arrives later and takes Cox to the hospital where he underwent surgery. According to a press release from the mayor, his injuries may result in paralysis.
He has the breathing tubes in, the feeding tubes in, so he can't talk.
Officer Diaz and 4 detention officers have been placed on leave, according to city officials. The Connecticut State Police confirm they are assisting in the ongoing investigation.
Why didn't the New Haven police officers believe Randy Cox when he said, "I can't move"? Why did they mock him?
City officials in New Haven say they have questions too, and their goal is to be transparent during this process.
Based on what I have seen in the video footage, I found several of the actions taken and several of the actions not taken by the officers to be quite concerning.
Quite concerning is right when you look at that video. Stephen Romo joins us now. I know you said the officers involved are going to be put on leave. What do we expect to happen to them and the department going forward?
Yeah, they're still looking into the situation, the agencies involved, but law enforcement analysts say there's really a wide range of outcomes that these officers could face, everything from retraining to reassignment. In similar situations, they say there's termination has also been on the table. It really just depends. I should note, though, Tom, we did reach out and try to reach Officer Oscar Diaz, but we were unable to reach him.
All right, my man. Step in there.
All right.
All right, step right in there.
Got it?
One leg at a time. One leg at a time.
Watch your head.
Watch your head, all right? I'm stopping. I'm going to check you out. What happened? What? You fell. What happened? Can you move at all?
I can't move.
What? How your leg is all the way up there?
Understand me. Listen, brother.
All right, I can't move you, so I have to hold on. I'm going to have to get an ambulance.
Listen, no.
Huh?
Yes, but understand.
You have to, go ahead.
I fall. I cannot move my arms.
All right, do not move. I can see moving your arm.
No.
Okay.
Look at my hand.
All right, hold on.
Help.
171.
171.
Can you start a signal 1? The subject in the van, he said he fell inside the van and he can't move. So I'm on my way to detention right now. So please, could you start me signal 1 over there?
Cox, either we can move you or you can wait till AR moves you.
I can't move.
Slide down, my man.
No, Jay.
Yo, slide down so we can get out of here.
Look. If you gotta drive me, go start over.
All right.
Fuck what I like. I'll let me relax for a bit.
All right, there you go.
Almost there. You're almost there. You gotta get your shoulders out. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Stand up. There you go. All right.
Get up.
Now how you making out? Ready?
Get the...
Huh?
You ain't cracking. You just drink too much. No, you drink too much.
Okay.
Sit up.
We ain't gonna take that out. What's just on?
I can't feel shit, bro.
Sit up.
Stop playing with that. Oh my God, bro.
Yeah, sit up. You're doing extra shit. Sit up. Sit up. What else did you have? Did you have any drugs alcohol?
Listen, no.
You're not fine. How many did you? Get up.
How you making out?
Put your hands out.
Hands in front. Don't catch you. We don't do it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. How much did you have to drink?
Hold a second. See.
I was a kiss. Huh? Lucas. He's perfectly fine. You want to put these on him? Yeah. Hold on, Ron. Hold on, Ron.
All right.
Has sentenced former British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell to 20 years in prison.
A federal jury convicted Maxwell in December for helping her longtime associate Jeffrey Epstein recruit, groom, and sexually abuse teenage girls. Let's bring in CBS News national correspondent Jerika Duncan, who is outside the courthouse. Hi there, Jerika. So break down this sentencing for us. Was it what prosecutors were looking for?
Prosecutors were looking for her to spend significant time behind bars. Again, as you noted at the top of this, 20 years behind bars with 5 years of supervised probation. Now, what was really interesting in all of this was hearing from Ghislaine Maxwell for the first time. She had words of empathy for the victims who gave their statements prior to her addressing the court. She said that knowing Jeffrey Epstein was the biggest regret of her life. She said that he was cunning and manipulative. She said she felt for the victims and hoped that this day would bring them a sense of peace, saying that his impact and all of those close to him was devastating. She said Jeffrey Epstein should have stood here before you addressing the court in 2005 and again in 2009, she said, and in 2019. All those accused, charged, and prosecuted, referring to Jeffrey Epstein. But she said today is not about Epstein. It's about all the victims here to address me. She said, I am sorry for the pain that you've experienced. I hope that my incarceration brings you peace. She hopes that it allows them to look forward and not backward. She said that the relationships that she has lost, she cannot regain as a result of her connection and friendship, really, to Jeffrey Epstein. And at the very end, she said, may this day help you travel from darkness into light. It was a stunning remarks, if you will, from Ghislaine Maxwell, who, again, we have not really heard from, and it was unclear if she was going to address the court. But today she did, apologizing to the victims and really saying that she hopes that this day brings them peace. The judge making note prior to the sentencing that this is not an issue of Ghislaine Maxwell being a proxy for Jeffrey Epstein, she said, but this is someone who was part of a scheme and committed crimes.
And Jerika, very interesting hearing from Ghislaine Maxwell herself, but can you tell us also a little bit more about some of the victim impact statements that were read in court today as well?
They were very powerful, and when you think about the trial and some of the statements and the testimony that we heard, it was more of the same, but really an opportunity for these victims to look at Ghislaine Maxwell, retell their stories, talk to the court about how devastating this has been for them. One victim was explaining that she had been hospitalized over a dozen times because of memories and things that she went through while she was with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Some of these women talk about being raped and sexually assaulted, traveling with this couple. As it pertains to Ghislaine Maxwell, one victim said, you know, she used her femininity to try and lure these women in, and they believed her, they trusted her, and as a result, they were hurt. And many of them saying that they're still dealing with the repercussions today of what happened to them 20, 25 years ago.
Very difficult testimony. Jerika Duncan at a downtown Manhattan courthouse, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Well, News 12 is continuing to investigate the increasingly violent conditions behind bars in state prisons. This time, a rise in attacks against corrections officers and growing concerns about staffing levels surfacing for the first time. Blaise Gomez has tonight's exclusive report.
When your job is behind bars.
It's not, hey, you may be assaulted 1 or 2 times in your 25-year career. It's you may be assaulted 1 or 2 times this week.
There's a growing risk that advocates say now goes above the call of duty.
Morale is non-existent. Staffing levels are deplorable.
Chris Moreau is the vice president of NYSCOBA, the union representing state corrections officers. He gave News 12 these exclusive photos of his members injured, doing their jobs at prisons statewide in recent weeks. But most are too graphic to even show you on TV.
There's been multiple attacks by multiple inmates on officers throughout the state. And this is, again, all since April 1st, all since HALT started.
New York passed the Humane Alternatives to Long-Term Solitary Confinement last year, restricting prison solitary confinement times and banning its use for certain age groups and people with disabilities. The New York Civil Liberties Union backs the changes, calling solitary confinement a form of torture and potentially fatal in prolonged periods. Earlier this month, News 12 highlighted allegations of abuse behind bars by officers against inmates, which HALT seeks to address. Moreau has a different perspective and says the act is the reason state data shows a 34% rise in violence behind bars within the last 2 months, and why many officers aren't returning to duty.
We have lost almost all of our disciplinary system as a result of HALT. And because of that, there is no deterrent to behave in prison.
Upstate Senator Dan Stack introduced a bill in May to repeal HALT.
Since January, hundreds of COs have resigned and the number of new recruits is dwindling.
The Republican cites unsustainable problems with staffing levels because of dangers advocates say no one doing their job should have to face. Blaise Gomez, News 12.
A representative for State Corrections said a prison violence task force was created last year to evaluate and develop safety measures, and that it supports holding violent offenders, quote, fully accountable by law. We reached out to the governor's office for comment, but have not yet heard back.
This is only an example. This is an example of what they retrieved.
He's talking about the weapons and drugs on display at an old jail on Rikers Island. Some 2,700 weapons and other contraband have been recovered during search operations within the island's jails since February. That includes these makeshift knives made out of plexiglass or drugs like K2 and fentanyl. It was at least the mayor's third trip to the jail since taking office, and during the visit, the mayor was trying to send a clear message to the department's officers.
I am not ashamed of you. I am proud of you. Keep doing the job you're doing.
For months, correction officers have been criticized for calling out sick in large numbers. Despite that, the mayor was on Rikers to boost morale among the rank and file. That included criticizing the city council for not agreeing to hire more officers.
So they're actually hurting some of the initiatives that Commissioner Molina is trying to do to create the release of inmates so they'll be prepared to be active citizens.
In the room was the head of the Correction Officers Union, who was applauding the mayor's support.
Shame on the city council for not approving these officers. Like, they talk a good game, but, we keep New York City safe.
The visit comes after 2 detainees died in custody this week. Another detainee died over the weekend after a suicide attempt in a Bronx holding pen earlier this month. It was just days earlier that detainee was issued compassionate release by a judge. Asked about the deaths, the mayor deflected blame away from the department.
By the time people reach Rikers, their health has deteriorated, and they come to these facilities. Let's find out, why did they die? Because Rikers didn't give them heart disease, if that's the reason they died.
In the last year and a half, there have been multiple suicides and drug overdoses, and some have questioned whether there was adequate supervision from officers.
The mayor's visit was definitely just to show support to correctional officers.
That may not provide comfort to those who have family inside the troubled jail, like Melissa Vergara, who we met just after the mayor left the island.
We never address the violence that comes from the other end, and maybe the mayor should take time to discuss those issues with family members and with those that are incarcerated to get a better idea, instead of just coming in and already choosing a side.
In the end, most people agree that Rikers Island is clearly in a state of crisis, but the mayor and his commissioners say they just need a little more time to turn things around. Outside of Rikers Island, Courtney Gross, New York 1.
Activists gathered in Raleigh calling on Governor Roy Cooper to do more to protect incarcerated people in the state.
CBS 17's Dina Harley learns more from organizers about what they want to see happen.
Activists are calling on Governor Cooper to end solitary confinement in North Carolina. It's something they say strips people of their humanity.
Solitary confinement we look at as torture because of the fact that people are isolated from one another, from human to human contact, isolated from outside light.
June 26th marks the United Nations International Day Against Torture, and activists in Raleigh spent the day calling on action from the governor.
Being alone oftentimes causes maybe your mind to play tricks on you. As you know, we're social creatures as human beings, and so we add meaning to our lives based on our interaction with each other.
They say thousands of North Carolinians are impacted by it.
Close to 3,000 men and women on any given day are inside solitary confinement within North Carolina prisons.
Speakers also touched on the intersection of punishment and religion and how some groups, including Muslim communities, can be demonized or stereotyped. For Dr. Craig Walid, the topic is personal.
I spent 8 years in New York State's prisons. I spent two 30-day terms inside solitary confinement, and I saw and felt the impact of solitary confinement.
Speaking from his own experience, Dr. Walid says while some consider solitary confinement a just punishment, he thinks it should not be used.
Even if someone is guilty of committing a crime, I think that solitary confinement serves to dehumanize people, and it does not pay attention to their individual humanity.
Activists now urging people to write letters to the governor or to legislators demanding an end to that practice. Reporting in Raleigh, I'm Dina Harley, CBS 17.